Ladies and gentlemen, dear all, it's an honor to welcome you all this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is László Tóth. I'm head of Europe for the GSMA, and thanks a lot for coming as well. Just a few weeks ago, we also had a pleasure to see many of you at MWC Barcelona. For those who were there, I'm sure you will agree that we are living in the most extraordinary and exciting times, the new tech era, where things we dreamt of as children, watching science fiction, are now reality, flying cars, smart cities, AI, to name just a few. The story of the mobile industry is the ultimate growth story. 50 years ago, we had one connection when Marty Cooper made the first mobile call in New York. Today, there are 5.6 billion unique connections, almost 500 million of them in Europe. And the networks cover 95% of the world's population. So while the telecom sector sometimes has this image of being slow and not innovative, when we consider these numbers, it is clear that we've been one of the most innovative sectors in the last 30 years. As the chairman Jose Maria said before, if the speed of planes followed the telco growth trend for a decade, it would take less than 1 second to fly from London to New York. So, from being slow and boring, we've been a massive enabler of societies, of industries, of the future, driving economic growth across Europe and beyond. And as we head into the next tech revolution, we have the opportunity to do it all again. You see, the digital world stands on the telco sector. And while AI, Web 3.0, intelligent connectivity are all dominating the conversations, connectivity lies at the heart of it all. The thriving mobile sector is key to Europe's digital ambitions and acts as an engine of Europe's industry and economic competitiveness. But to achieve this, we need new rules for a new era. Which is why tonight, on behalf of the European mobile industry, we are pleased to present the Industry's Manifesto for Europe, our strategic vision for the mobile connectivity sector. But before I dive in, I thought it would be helpful to take a moment to reflect on where we've been and where we are as an industry. Well, over the past 5 years, during this EU legislative cycle, we faced unprecedented challenges, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the war in Ukraine, to the cost of living and energy crisis. Through these challenges, the mobile industry has stood strong, committed to doing our part in keeping the continent connected and our economies moving forward. When the pandemic turned our lives upside down, we were there, ensuring businesses and public services could shift to remote working and classrooms could continue online. From the first days of the war, our industry worked together to ensure connectivity and digital assistance across the board, and we remain committed to this. If the past 5 years have shown us anything, it is just how important connectivity is. Against this backdrop, Europe has also taken a step forward to protect its citizens and businesses while advancing its digital agenda. Some of the key focus areas have been the Digital Decade Strategy, promoting online safety, ensuring fairness in the digital markets with the DSA and DMA, and becoming the first region in the world to regulate AI. All significant achievements for the continent and its citizens. Over the years, we as an industry have aligned with the key EU priorities, working hard to contribute to driving innovation with initiatives like the GSMA Open Gateway, which is opening up mobile operator networks to developers and cloud service providers, supporting Europe's competitiveness with resilient, high-capacity networks and enabling businesses, contributing to Europe's green transition by reducing our own emissions and enabling other sectors and businesses to decarbonize and reduce their energy consumption. We've also worked hard to bridge the rural digital divide and empower Europe's citizens to access online services such as education, healthcare, as well as promoting literacy, digital literacy and trust. And we have contributed to securing Europe's open strategic autonomy by ensuring the connectivity sector remains resilient and secure in the face of external shocks. As a sector, we've been and continue to be a key strategic asset for Europe's resilience. And as we move forward, we must ensure that Europe's telcos are incentivized to maintain their presence in and control of significant parts of the ecosystem by also working with international partners to strengthen the collective resilience. But the telco sector is facing unprecedented and systematic challenges in rolling out the infrastructure needed to achieve Europe's digital ambitions. Over the last 20 years, European telcos have lost 80% of their market value, while revenues across the broader internet ecosystem have significantly increased. Despite this, over the past decade, we invested 500 billion euros in networks, but this is not enough to fill the investment gap. For Europe to achieve its digital decade connectivity targets by 2030, we need a further 200 billion euros of investment in network infrastructure. But this investment is not optional for Europe. Without it, Europe will be incapable of transforming its digital economy and unable to compete globally. Without it, Europe will ultimately lose the ability to make its own decisions about its industrial strategy. The current European regulatory system hinders and often discourages large-scale network investment, which works against Europe's wider needs. The Commission's current mandate recognizes the strategic importance of the telecom industry and its vital role in society and economy. The recent Commission white paper offers, we believe, an accurate assessment about the status of the sector and some welcome proposals, while we need some more clarity on the detailed aspects of some of the possible solutions. And of course, we will keep engaging with the Commission and respond to this important public consultation. But we have a shared problem statement and a shared vision. And now we really need to be ambitious and we need meaningful measures. And time is of essence and we need to act urgently. So how will we get there? The manifesto we are launching today sends a clear message. Europe needs new rules for a new era. We need new digital framework which will radically reshape the governance of the sector to foster investment and innovation and unleash a true single market for telecoms. Our manifesto goes into more details, but this evening we'd like to highlight 4 key policy areas. Number 1 is the industry needs to scale in order to compete. Right now we have 100 operators serving customers across the 27 member states in Europe. If you divide it up, each operator has about 5 million customers. By comparison, in the US, that would be 110 million customers for each operator, and in China, 450 million. It is clear that Europe needs to re-evaluate the telecom market structure and the minimum viable scale for network operators to be able to compete and to secure Europe's strategic autonomy. For this, Europe should consider revising its merger regulation, promoting a more flexible approach to competition policy, taking into account longer-term effects of investment with a broader, more dynamic and forward-looking market assessment. Number 2 is spectrum policy. We need a more pro-investment approach to EU spectrum policy. At the moment, very high auction costs for mobile spectrum are consistently depleting funds that could otherwise be used for investment. In Germany alone, mobile operators have paid 66 billion euros in license fees between 2000 and 2019. Spectrum should be treated as an essential input to Europe's competitive future, not as a windfall tax for national governments. Spectrum should either be bought or rented on much longer terms to give telcos and financial investors the confidence to invest heavily. The review of the EU spectrum policy is an opportunity to deliver the wider adoption of best practices and enable a more long-term and harmonized approach to licensing, which will lead to more ambitious investment outcomes and ultimately benefit citizens and businesses across the EU. Next is the need to rebalance the digital ecosystem. In the past decade, we've seen a paradigm shift in communication services and telecom industry as a whole. In particular, the traditional physical infrastructure that historically underpinned telecommunications has increasingly been replaced by software with a delayering effect across the ecosystem. This had led to new players entering the value chain to provide new pan-European digital services, including replacements of traditional services. Furthermore, many of the largest tech players now operating their own connectivity infrastructure, including subsea cables, backhaul, terrestrial networks. But regulation has continued to point disproportionately at a single layer of the value chain, traditional integrated telecom operators. Against this backdrop, the introduction of the DSA and DMA and their objectives to promote fairness and contestability in the digital ecosystem is welcomed and marked a significant step forward to restoring a level playing field. But there are still regulatory asymmetries. As such, we need to close the regulatory gap to ensure equivalent rights for consumers and equivalent rules for all services, for all service providers across the value chain on net neutrality, IoT services, cloud services. And as data traffic continues to grow, we are asking for responsible network usage that saves energy and avoids consumers being exposed to unnecessary and unwanted data. Last, but definitely not least, the new EU institutional mandate will need to update the sector-specific rules to reflect the current reality. Right now, we are still using policy principles 20, 30 years ago, which is clearly unrealistic. So we need to update our policies to reflect the new technological, social, economic, competition realities that we face and ensure we develop a holistic and harmonized approach to address the barriers to creating a true single market for telecoms. Ladies and gentlemen, last year we celebrated 50 years since the first mobile phone call was made. Since then, our industry has been at the forefront of innovation, changing the way people live, work, and interact with the world around them. As we enter this new tech era, I believe we have the chance to regain our competitive and innovative edge and do it all again. The manifesto we are launching today, this evening, represents our commitment to partnership and progress, to laying the groundwork for Europe to reclaim its position as the global leader in digital technology and innovation, and to building the next generation infrastructure needed by European citizens, businesses to succeed and thrive. The EU and the mobile industry share the same goal, to realize a connected, competitive, digital and green future for European society and to stay in control of our own destiny. But to achieve this, we need to act together. We need to act now to develop new rules and a new deal. Thank you. And with that, I would like to hand over to Jennifer to introduce the panel for the rest of the evening. Thank you.